Hello, everyone. My name is Kyra Everett. I am the communications coordinator here at the Broward MPO. And today's presentation is named MPO 101. So with today's presentation is going to be a little bit more interactive. So if I can have you all get out your phones, or if you're on a web browser, if you can go to menti.com or scan the code on your screen, and it will take you to where we'll be asking a few questions for today. If you cannot scan the QR code and you type it in manually, the code for today is 85556157. So I'm going to give you all a few moments to go ahead and do that. All right, so I think that's good enough time. So if we can go ahead and I'm going to keep the ball rolling. And we're actually going to ask the first Menti question for today is, have you heard of the Broward MPO? Good amount of yeses, a few nos, a few sounds familiar. That's actually pretty exciting because it's the many times that we go out to the community, we have a lot more no's and yeses. So this is super exciting to see how the ball has turned. I'm going to give you all a few more seconds to answer that question. Wow, 62%. This is like super exciting. I'm like fangirling on the inside right now because usually, and not many people know who we are. All right, so if we can go ahead and go to the next presentation slide. All right, so we're going to meet our panel for today. Again, I'm Kyra Everett. I will be your moderator. And we have Hannah Bourgeois. She's our public outreach officer, part of our public, our PIO team. So she does a lot of the social media. We have Stephanie Garcia. She's our complete streets manager, a part of our mobility team. We have Benjamin Restrepo. He's our transportation engineer, also a part of our mobility team. And then we have Christopher Restrepo, our principal planner, and he's a part of our strategic initiative team. Again, I'm Kyra Everett. I'm the communications coordinator, and I'm a part of our PIO team. All right, so what we do at the Broward MPO, we are a federally funded agency, and we are pretty much a liaison between our public officials and the people. So at the MPO, our main goal is to make sure that people are informed and they understand they have a voice when it comes to the transportation planning process. Some of these photos that you see in front of us are some of our core products that we offer to make sure that Broward County is properly planned, prioritized, and funded. We work with all 31 municipalities here within the county. We have 25 members that sit on our board, and then we have 13 alternative members. Of those 25 members are actually voting members to make sure that all 31 of our municipalities are represented and they have a voice and they are heard, as well as we have someone that sits on our board from the Broward County school system. We have someone from SFRTA, TriRail, etc. So some of our core products, we have the MTP, which is updated every 5 years. This is our long range plan, which highlights different projects that we plan to implement within the next 25 years. And it kind of takes a look at, how Broward is constantly changing and what can we do to stay ahead of the curve and to make sure that we are implementing projects that are long lasting and long serving of our community. We have our public participation plan, which is our PPP, that comes out, and it's our way of staying engaged with our residents here within the county. We have our TIP, which is updated every year, which Christopher Restrepo works directly with. And this is our plans and projects we plan to implement a little bit faster than those 25 years. It is a federally funded list that is updated every year. And then we have our UPWP, which is a budget, and it highlights how we plan to spend our funding that we receive yearly, and it's updated every 2 years. Oh, sorry, Hannah, if you could go to the Vinci for me, please. All right, so we're gonna ask a few more questions. So what are your plans post-graduation? I'm gonna get those phones back out. Again, the code is at the top. It's 8555-6157 if you are just joining the meeting. Okay, we have the John industry, academia. I did not plan to graduate, still trying to figure it all out. Nothing wrong with that. Took me 5 years. Sometimes you have to do what you gotta do. Work for DOT, PE program, okay, going to work. Join the industry, start with academia, and then probably shift to industry. Okay, a lot of you are on the same track. I'm gonna give that a few more seconds for you to go ahead and get your answers in. Academia. Okay, work for the city of Miami Beach. Love that. So you all kind of have a plan of what you want to do. So with this next question, it's going to ask, how are you preparing yourself to transition into your career? So what are some actions you're taking, whether that is internship currently, are you shadowing? What are you doing to help propel you to get where you need to be? Take your PE, networking for now, interning, take PE, switch majors, networking. Okay. Love to hear it. There is no straight route to success.
I was just going to say congratulations to the people that passed their PE and FE. Those are really difficult exams, so kudos to y'all.
Love it. Okay, so for the most part, everyone has a plan. So that's the most important part. I'm going to give you all a few more seconds to go ahead and get your answers in. All right, so now we're going to have an opportunity to meet our panelists, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what we do and what our day-to-day looks like. So I'm going to volley first to Christopher Restrepo.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Kyra. I'm excited to be here to talk to you a little bit about what we do at the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization. So to kick things off, my role at the MPO, like Kyra said, I am a principal planner, and my role is in our systems planning office. So what that means is I get to work on supporting the development of 3 major core products that we have at the MPO. Those include our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is our long-range plan that looks out to 25 years into the future. Our multimodal priorities list, which we use to develop our priorities that we want to see get funded and what those priorities are transportation projects. And then our transportation improvement program, which is our programmed 5-year checkbook, if you will. Basically, we're assigning dollars to projects, and that's our plan for the next 5 years to implement all of these projects within Broward County. So what does my day-to-day life look like at the MPO? Well, I started out as an engineer and environmental engineer, and I got really interested in mapping. So I thought, how can I apply to a job that focuses creativity, engineering skills, math, and mapping, of course. And so planning led me down that path. And that's what I do today still. I do a lot of calculations to apply funding to projects. I do a lot of mapping. I do a lot of creative exercises so that we can make sure that we have all our projects in a most public outlook facing way and more easily interpreted. So I'm always on the computer doing some maps. I'm always doing some database management, and I'm collaborating with all of our other people at the MPO as well to make sure we get the best projects in Broward. That's me.
Hi, Kyra, I think you're mute.
Just kidding. I'm going to pose that same question to you, Stephanie Garcia.
Well, thank you so much. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Well, I'm the Computer Streets Manager at the Broward MPO. And what we do there, and I'm talking about we because we are a team, right? Is basically work with municipalities in order to implement, well, plan and implement a safer streets in Broward region. And how we do this? Well, I would like to start with the Computer Streets Master Plan that was actually developed in 2018 and endorsed in 2019. And right now we are working in implementation of almost 150 projects in Broward County. Of course, it takes time, and that's why we're working with Christopher Restrepo in order to, year by year, implement at least one of those. And it is a difficult task, but we have to work with DOT. We also have to work with city engineers and city planners. Imagine, it's 31 municipalities in Broward County, and we, the MPO, we have to work with different planners and engineers. My day-to-day activities are mainly, I also map. I like mapping, so I do create maps. So it is a lot of GIS, Excel. So if you love Excel, no, I think Excel, everyone will work with Excel, in a time of life. But so what I do is basically identify ways to work with the communities as well, to include them as part of, the planning of the project. So what we actually do is collect feedback from the community in order to make sure that the projects that we scoped are actually projects that the community will be glad to walk, bike, and drive, because we have to think about everyone and also about people that take transit. So that's what we do. We create safer streets in Broward, and we identify ways to include everyone in the equation.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to pose that same question to you, Benjamin.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Benjamin Restrepo, professional engineer. I have about 9 years experience in the engineering world. Some of the things that I do at the Broward MPO is actually what I am is kind of like a Swiss Army knife here at the Broward MPO. Whenever anyone needs anything analyzed, designed, or vetted out, they come to me and our group, minus Stephanie's group, the mobility team. So my job is probably one of the most funnest at the Broward MPO. I get to go out on the field. I get to go meet the communities. I get to go measure and then compile a bunch of counts and data. And then I take that data back to the office and I put it in a report or in a design. And then after we're done vetting out the projects, we hand it over to Christopher, and he gives us the funding to go and implement the projects. One of the biggest things we work on at the Broward MPO, like Stephanie said, is complete streets and how we build communities, not just in one city, but in the county, in Broward County, and then how we connect those communities and make better movement, not just of people, but also of goods.
Benjamin, if you don't mind, can you elaborate a little bit on what a complete street is?
So complete streets are, they have, it's a wide definition. Ideally, when people think of complete streets, you'll think, you have a safe, dedicated, a path for every user, right? So you have like a safe sidewalk, you have a safe bicycle lane, you have a dedicated travel lanes for the vehicles. And then also once you get to the intersections, make sure there's safe passage, not just for one approach or one user, but safe passage at all the approaches at the intersections, and also for all the users that traverse through the intersections. And a big component of complete streets is the look and feel, and landscaping, lighting, buffers between the travel lanes and the sidewalks. Those all give you that sense of safety and a community.
Yes, and to summarize that is, complete streets are complete for everyone, all ages, all abilities. So from 1 to 80 years old, anyone that is, and another element that we have to highlight is ADA, right? So we try to make our streets safe and walkable and accessible to everyone, no matter, how old are you, and the idea is to connect our communities through this safe street.
Thank you so much for that clarification. And so we're going to keep the ball rolling. So Hannah, if you don't mind telling us your role at the MPO and what does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, of course. Thanks again. As the others have mentioned, thank you so much, you guys, for having us today. It's such an honor to be here. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Stephanie was saying about the ADA, not only is ADA super important, obviously, like in the plans and the programs that we go through with, but how it relates to my job is ADA applies also to the digital and the social realm. So that's actually one of the projects that I've been taking on as the public outreach officer, and really working with our social media, working with our website to make sure it's up to standards, both federal standards and things that, as social media begins to become more popular and things like that, it's important to keep all of the content going out accessible. So I've been working with our local coordinating board for the transportation disadvantaged to talk to them about, what are some of the hurdles that they see, not only in infrastructure, but again, in the digital and social realm. So that's been a really cool thing that I've been having the opportunity to work on. Some of the other things I work on are coordinating with Kyra and the rest of the teams at the MPO to deliver both written and designed items. So whether it's a fact sheet on an upcoming project, helping with promotion of different events, whether it's some of the annual events that the mobility team and the Complete Streets team put on, such as like, let's go biking, let's go walking. We've done a virtual scavenger hunt. We have tactical urbanism projects coming up, open streets program that we're planning. So I've been heavily involved in working with those teams to help make those projects and events happen. I also have been doing a lot of the internal communications for the MPO. So working with our HR department, as well as some of the upper management to just distribute some of the information to all staff. So everyone's kind of on the same page when it comes to messaging for the brand, as well as staying on top of like industry standards, different projects that some of our partners are doing. And to tie on to that, Kyra and I actually both work heavily with a lot of our partners. So whether it's FDOT, any of the municipalities, the county, both to implement projects, also to foster relationships. And our job, it's very much, I scratch your back, you scratch mine for promotion and garnering support for different projects and stuff like that. So leveraging different partnerships within the community is super important, especially when it comes to elected officials. Whenever you guys have the chance to make those relationships and those connections and build your network with elected officials, it'll help in the long run, especially when you guys are looking to implement different projects.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And again, my name is Kyra Everett. I'm the Communications Principal Coordinator here at the Broward MPO. So pretty much I do all of the written content on behalf of the agency, and it is my goal to protect the brand's voice and the overall awareness of the brand. So a lot of the written content that comes out on behalf of the agency typically comes from myself or Hannah or someone amongst our PIO team. I also help Hannah with a bit of the social media content. So when we have our different events or we have projects and plans it's really up to me to take it from super technical speak and to make sure that anyone on pretty much a third grade reading level can understand what it is, because overall the goal of the Broward MPO is to help the public understand what it is that we're doing, and again to understand that they have a say-so and a voice, and to get them involved. Because we are a federally funded agency, everything that we do is for the most part open to the public, and we're always looking to get public participation, and what better way to get people involved and to participate is making sure they understand what we're doing, and why their involvement is so important. Another thing that I am super excited to work on is I'm over our educational outreach efforts. So it started with our Think Like a Planner programs, where we would go to local middle and high school schools, and we will work with students throughout Broward County and just kind of expose them to who we are and what we do. And from that, our university outreach program idea was birthed. And this is actually our first big event of a part of our new university outreach initiative. And the overall goal is to just increase awareness of who we are, what we do, as well as our partners. So as we grow and we kind of find our footing throughout this program and map out what it will look like, we'll work with different local universities throughout the area, throughout Miami-Dade, Broward, as well as Palm Beach, because I mean, South Florida, there are schools everywhere. And the goal is to ensure that students who are interested in transportation, engineering, planning, pretty much any transportation profession, to help them understand that there are jobs here in Florida and there is a need within transportation, and to just kind of, expose them to what we do, because a lot of people haven't heard of the MPO. And this program will hopefully help garner the next transportation planners and engineers and urban planners. So we can move on to the next slide. All right, so our next question for our panels are, what are some steps that you took to propel you to where you are now, and what advice would you give to a current student? So we're going to go in that same rotation, starting with you, Mr. Christopher Restrepo.
So some steps to take you to where I got. Well, the first one, you're all doing it right now, right? Absolutely, go to school, make sure you have a good education. And the great thing about this is what we do in planning, it's kind of a jack of all trades. So whatever you're really talented in, you can really apply that to any field of planning, whether it's transportation, policy, housing, you name it, you can do it. It has to be what your focus and what your interests are, right? So that's kind of my story. I started out as an environmental engineer. I was doing a lot of experiments to clean water, clean air, and I thought it was fascinating. It's great. It's all those really important things that you need to do to make sure we live in a healthy earth, but it wasn't really my passion. I mean, going to a wastewater treatment facility once will tell you you don't want to be around it all the time. But anyways, so like I said, I do a lot of mapping, and ever since I was young, I just thought, how fascinating is it to open an atlas and just see all different parts of the world? And then, you want to be able to create those kinds of things. And one thing that you see when you look at all those maps is a lot of patterns of, you see whether it's migration or moving or just roads, sidewalks, waterways, airways, you see all of that. So transportation really is kind of a lifeline, a bloodline of our system of how we are. So the first thing after an education is really an interest, a passion. And transportation is really a place where you can apply anything. So after I got my degree, I started getting a few jobs in South Florida, moved around from FDOT to Miami-Dade Transit, went to the consulting world. But you pick things up along the way. And the best thing you can do to make sure that you have a good career is to really be open-minded to hearing what everyone's opinions are and taking those best ones to apply them to yourself. So having a smile is always great, but also being open to learning. And I think a lot of people here could say that as well. Also, what you need are some skills. So I have a lot of skills using Esri mapping, but I also do a lot of skills with database management. So knowing your Microsoft Access, Excels, but then also going outside of that, I do a lot of creative work. So I work a lot with Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, so really the creative cloud. And you don't need to be a graphic designer to use these software. Just learning little tips and tricks with it can really get your products to go that extra level and be very presentational. And then you can be able to communicate things that better with images than you can with words sometimes. So get an education, be passionate, take in good advice, learn a lot along the way, and get some skills.
Thank you, Christopher. And we're going to keep the ball rolling over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you. So, well, I'm a civil engineer. I studied in Colombia. And then I decided to, civil engineer was great, but I thought that it wasn't just enough. It was just part of the equation. And so I decided, and I was working in geometric design, roadway geometric design. So when I was working roadway geometric design, I realized, you know what, I need to learn a little bit about planning, because I just don't want to focus on the streets. I want to focus also what is happening in the city, how we connect, our roadways with our destinations and how we see the big picture. So that's when I decided to study urban planning and policy design in Italy. Then I had the experience of, developing mobility plans. I went back, of course, to Colombia. I went back and started working with the city of Bogota. And it was a really great experience because I had the opportunity to, bring what I studied in Italy to Colombia and actually, implement what I learned. And in Colombia, then I started, working with the city infrastructure development department, because we wanted to, see how we could bring better projects, infrastructure projects to Bogota, how we complement, for example, the Transmilenio or the BRT that we have in Colombia, in Bogota, and how we complement that with the metro. So I started working in a study to implement a metro line in Bogota. And then after that, I realized, you know what, I think I need another challenge. So I came to the United States, and the NPO was lucky enough to get me. And then, I am right now, I'm applying a mix of what I learned in Italy and Colombia. So that's, I think, that the part that you don't know when actually you're going to apply all the things that you learn in your life in one job. So I'm right now doing a little bit of, sometimes I review plans. Sometimes I just, work in the computer's master plan and in the implementation of the master plan. And sometimes I work with my colleagues, and we work, in a different type of environment where we brainstorm. So it is, I don't know, working with the NPO gives you that chance, to work within departments and also have the chance to work with the municipalities and other NPOs surrounding the area. So we work with the TPO in Miami-Dade, and we work also with the TPA in Palm Beach. So that's amazing, having that opportunity is amazing. And so my advice would be, go with your heart. If you like something, just go after it. And I think it is important also to build, your knowledge, as Christopher was saying before. If you have a passion about a certain software, go ahead, because for sure you will use it in the future. And growing those specific skills makes you different from the rest. So that's key. What makes you different from another civil engineer or urban planner? I think you have to bring that to the table. Also for the interviews, when you bring that extra, it's like, okay, we want him, we want her. So it is that, it is just, working your passions and try to build your skills at the next, to the next level. And just be creative. I think creativity is part of a civil engineer, and also is part of, all the careers. You have to be creative and envision what you want. So I think that's what helped me a lot. And that's why, I'm working with these wonderful people here. But yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. Really great response. And we're going to move on to you, Benjamin.
So I guess the advice I'll give or the steps I took are a little unorthodox compared to what Christopher and Stephanie just talked about. But I'm going to make an assumption here that everyone's going to be a type of civil engineer or planner. And when you're doing, when you're working professionally as a civil engineer or planner, specifically a transportation engineer, you impact the communities, right? So what you do is visually seen within 5 to 15 years. So to get a better understanding of how to interact with the community, before you graduate, I really suggest getting a part-time job in hospitality or guest services. Get a sensitivity for how you should treat people, and also understand why people get frustrated at different things, right? After you're done graduating, I would suggest a travel and travel a lot. And don't be afraid to move around either. When you go to all these major cities like New York, Minneapolis, Seattle, Barcelona, Paris, you find out key things that you loved about those cities. And if you want to come back to your hometown, or you want to come back to Miami, Broward County, anywhere here, figure out how can you bring those elements back to your city. Whether it's like what we mentioned, the complete streets, the wide sidewalks, or even a transit plan, monorail, train. Get some real life experiences and really divulge into the cultures of other cities and figure out how you can bring that back to your life or to where you're going to live. Another thing I'll suggest is when you're working professionally, is really understand your worth, right? Don't be afraid to ask people like, hey, how is it working in the private sector versus the public sector? Culture is a very big, important thing. If you don't like the culture where you work, they can pay you tons of money, but if you hate yourself, you should probably leave that workplace and find a place that's a really good fit for you. I did see in the questions that we asked earlier of what's your plan after graduation, someone mentioned the FDOT PE training program. I think that's a phenomenal idea. I used to work at FDOT. It wasn't in the PE training program, but FDOT is probably, if you decided to stay in Florida, of course, I think FDOT is an excellent place to start your career. They have amazing training, great exposure to so many different agencies, entities. So whoever said that is a great choice. The other thing I'll recommend, once you get your foot in 2 or 3 years in working professionally, find something that there's a big need for, right? So my example is when I was working at FDOT, we have tons and tons of designers, but not a lot of traffic engineers, not a lot of people that were analyzing the operations at intersections, or if they did have that, they would hire consultants to do the work. But, instead of hiring a consultant, if you're working for the public, figure out how you can learn that type of skill, kind of like what Christopher and Stephanie were saying. It's like find a specific skill, learn it, specialize in it, and then that will make you way more attractive, not only in where you currently work, but where you're going to work in the future. Engineering is a great career path. Stephanie and Christopher both started as engineers, so they went off to planning, so it opened up amazing doors for them. I guess I decided to stay as an engineer because I just love it so much. So I think you guys are on the right path.
Thank you, Ben. And we're moving on to you, Hannah.
Yeah, so I guess I have a little bit more of a non-traditional role in the transportation realm, serving as the communications, or one of the communications people with the agency. But some of the things that I had done early on when I was in college was really, getting involved with internships. So throughout my undergraduate studies, I was able to intern actually with the United States Coast Guard, which was incredible. The Ron Miguel Conservation Endowment over with Zoo Miami, the Lighthouse for the Blind, and the Underline. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Underline project, but that's the urban trail that is going to be under the metro in Miami. So I was actually got the chance to work with Meg Daly like 9 years ago, when none of the projects were actually implemented yet. So that was really cool. Part of the benefits of internships is not only the experience that you get from working with these different industries and these different organizations, but the connections that you make. Like some of the connections that I made through my internships have popped up through my current job, or have helped me reach out to other people and build my network even further. And at least for me, that's one of the most beneficial things that I found, is really leveraging relationships you have with people, building out your network, because you never know who knows who. And especially in the industry, it's never a bad thing to be connected with other people in the community, whether it's directly in your field or, if it's in a parallel field or something like that. Something else that I found a lot of benefit to is getting involved in different professional organizations. So the ones that I'm involved in aren't necessarily applicable to you guys. But for instance, there's like the Public Relations Society of America, which is an awesome platform because one of the things that they have is like an open forum. So if you do have questions related to your industry, people from all different backgrounds and communication in this aspect are able to weigh in and give their viewpoint and their input. So anywhere from people who just entered the field to people who have been in the field for 30, 40 years. So getting involved in different professional organizations is just a great way to get a different viewpoint, or if you're stuck, or if you just need clarification on something, or you don't know what your next steps might be, it's a great opportunity just to see things the way other people see it, and just get a different viewpoint on whatever it is that you're going through. I guess the last thing is, one of the other things that I've recently got involved with is I sit on the board for 2 different nonprofits in the Broward region. One of them you guys might know of, it's called Smart Growth Partnerships. So that's a tri-regional effort between Broward, Palm Beach, and Miami-Dade to create like smart infrastructure in the region and to better connect the 3 counties. So like with them, I get to connect with other industry professionals. Some are engineers, there's a lawyer, there's, all different people, but we all have a similar interest in what it is that, whatever the issue is at the table. So just getting involved in your community, because you never know how it might help you in the future.
Thank you for that, Hannah. And I guess I'll go last and keep it very quickly. But also, similar to Hannah, my role transition into transportation was very non-traditional. With me being the communications coordinator here, I do not have any engineering experience, and I didn't know much about transportation prior to. But one of the things that Christopher stated that really spoke to me and was true to my journey is just finding something that I'm passionate about and being open-minded is what landed me here at the MPO. So prior to when I was in undergrad in college, no one couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to be a dermatologist, something that I knew I was going to do from a young age. I was in magnet programs all throughout middle, high school. So of course, you get to college and you think that's your passion. But once you get to college, that's when you really find out who you are and what really interests you. And I learned that that just wasn't for me. Granted, while it is very hands-on and you work with people, it just didn't feed to my passion. And so that's when it took some time for me to, refine myself. And that's when I found public relations, and it just really spoke to me and what I'm passionate about. I've always wanted to work with people. I'm great with words. And it allowed me to do all of that and to get paid for it, So during that time, I just really worked on building up my network, because a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. So by me doing different internships, whether they were paid or not, in different fields, because again, you want to be well-rounded and you want to learn as much as possible. And I believe that's one thing that the MPO allows me to do. Nothing of my day-to-day is 100% the same. Like I get to work with, like Stephanie mentioned, you get to work with so many different municipalities and different people, and you get to apply different things that you've learned throughout your time and apply them in different ways. Always be open. You should always be a student, regardless. Once you get your degree, always be open to learning new things and to trying new things. I see a lot of you, you have an idea of what you want to do and you have a plan of how to get there, and that's great, because it's great for you to have a plan, but also for you to be flexible enough, because you never want to become complacent with where you are. So you're always wanting to learn new things. You're always looking for ways to grow your skills. And so that way you're being the most marketable version of yourself. So yeah, we're going to move on. With that, we'll move on to the next question that we have for our panel. And this is where it gets a little bit more fun, because we talked about, what we do and what our passions are and how we got there. But this is the opportunity for us to kind of brag a little bit and talk about which aspect of our role do we deem to be most rewarding, whether that's a program, a plan, a project, an event, or something that you started on and it came to fruition. So this time we're going to actually flip it just a little bit, and we're going to start off with you, Hannah.
Sweet, I was not ready to unmute myself. So I would say one of the most rewarding things that I've had the opportunity to work on is actually tying back to what I had mentioned earlier with the ADA and creating more digital and social accessibility for the organization. So this actually came to light about 2 years ago. It was right around the start of COVID, because traditionally my role, I was out in the field 3 or 4 days a week, tabling, attending different partner events, hosting MPO events. We were always out in the field. So when COVID hit and we couldn't do any of that, we had to turn everything virtual. And that's when the questions started coming up, like, how are you reaching out to communities who don't have traditional access to the internet, or for those who do have disabilities, whether it's a hearing disability, a sight disability, something like that. And that's kind of what triggered this whole project that I've been working on, just to boost up the accessibility of the MPO. So it's been definitely a journey, but some of the rewarding aspects of it is I've actually got to coordinate with all different cities throughout Florida, not just in the South Florida region, but like in the central part of Florida, as well as through one of the connections that I've made through the Public Relations Society of America. They were doing a call for projects for or I guess more a call for programs, like what kind of programming do we want the organization to start sending out? And I had mentioned that, government accessibility has never been covered in any of the training opportunities. And so they actually requested that I sit with their committee to start planning out this program. So start of next year, they're actually going to start programming based on the feedback and the expertise that I've offered them. So that's been really cool. I mean, I've presented to a couple different committees. I've presented to national conferences. I have another conference lined up for next year that I'll be speaking specifically to accessibility efforts. So just kind of wrapping that up, accessibility, it's not just for people who have disabilities, or it's not just for, a niche group of people. Accessibility extends to everybody, much like how curb cuts or, how sidewalks make it more accessible for people to get around in their communities. This is just a way to bring it to the TV screen or the computer screen.
Thank you for that, Hannah. And we're going to keep things rolling along, and we're going to move to you, Christopher.
Great. So the first thing I'll say, that the most rewarding part about what we do at the MPO for me is really the people I get to work with. What Benjamin said before, if it's not feeling right, you're making money, but you're working really, really hard and your life isn't all that great about it, you should leave it. Well, at the MPO, we have such a great group of people, and to see everyone's faces, whether it's on Zoom or in person, it really gets you to want to work harder and work together. So that's the first thing. But for what I do at the MPO, we talked a little bit about the Transportation Improvement Program. And I work a lot of that. And you sacrifice your year to really get this document approved every year. You go to the elected officials and ask for their blessing or their approval. And it's a big deal because this document itself has about 450 projects-ish every year, which is almost $5.1 billion. And that's the dollars that really enhance our transportation network in Broward County. So every time that gets approved, it's almost like you just got an award for something really, really big, and you're just like, oh, you can finally breathe. But then you quickly go back into the next cycle again. So those milestones that you have, you really should celebrate them, because it just helps enhance your trajectory and your work development at the MPO or anywhere in your career. But yeah. And also we do a lot of really cool stuff. So we're not always stuck to one specific thing. We like to say a lot in the NPO that we are not stuck to our silos, that we can like kind of move around. So being able to collaborate with other people takes you out of the redundancy of your specific tasks, and then you get to go learn from others when you go help them with theirs. So that's also really rewarding.
Thank you for that, Christopher. And next, we're going to volley over to you, Stephanie.
Great. So for me and I want to highlight this project, I had the honor to establish the Tactical Urbanism program for the Broward NPO. And this is the first time that, well, not actually the first time, but this is something new for the Broward NPO, establishing a Tactical Urbanism program. So how this happened, right? Why an NPO? So first, we wanted to work with the communities closely. And second, we usually have to wait 5 years to implement a infrastructure project. So we wanted to find a way to mix those two things, working with the community and implementing projects faster. So that's why we came out with the quick build concept here in the Broward NPO. We wanted to implement quick build projects in a quicker way. And that's how in 2020, we established the program. And now in 2021, we are actually implementing the first pilot project of the program in the city of Deerfield Beach. So we're actually working with the community since April of this year. We've been having public meetings, workshops, and explaining them what exactly we want to do there, working with them in identifying patterns of the design that we want to go, and paint in the streets of the city of Deerfield Beach. And actually, it's just one project. It is 0.7 miles. It is an intersections, crosswalks, enhancements, bike lanes protection. It is a little bit of everything of a computer streets in 0.7 miles. So we're going to do this in December of this year. If you are all invited, if you want to volunteer, there are volunteer opportunities to help us paint Northeast 3rd Avenue in the city of Deerfield Beach. And I think the most rewarding part is involving the community in the planning process, getting them to actually participate, help us paint. And it is all about empowerment. When they are part of a project like this since the beginning, you feel proud of what you do. I paint this street and I will cross in the crosswalks, not jaywalking, but in the crosswalks. And you teach about, what you did there. So I think for us, for the NPO, it's really important to, change the way we plan and work closely to the community. And that's why we came up with the Be Tactical program. And we are hope so we are going to implement more projects. Right now we are in the open call for projects for the second pilot project in 2022. So again, if you are interested, I will share the link for the volunteer opportunities, because this is a unique opportunity, help us paint the streets for the community. That's just amazing and rewarding.
Thank you for that, Stephanie. And last but not least, I'm going to volley to you, Benjamin.
So at the end of the day, the most rewarding thing for me working at the Broward NPO is riding my bike to work. And it's something very simple, but it takes a lot of work to ride your bike to work. And the first step that we take to do something simple like that is we work with our regulatory agencies such as Broward County, FDOT, FHWA. We work with them on changing minimum standards, maximum standards, policies, things that or functional classifications of the roadways. We work with them on those things, so then we can actually fund bicycle lanes, fund sidewalks, fund all these things that makes it more comfortable for you to get out of your car and take an alternative mode to get to work. So yeah, after we're done changing all those standards or policies, we later then go and work with those same agencies and design new roadways or take existing roadways and retrofit the existing roadways to put in these better facilities. And then we hand them back to Christopher, he gets them funded, and then 10 years later, I'm able to ride my bike to work. So that's what's most rewarding for me. I get to see what I did. I get to see what my hard work goes towards, and makes me a better person and enhances my quality of life.
Thank you for that, Benjamin. So I'll go really quickly. An aspect of my role that I deem to be most rewarding is honestly the educational outreach. Because I enjoy working with our next generation, I feel like the next generation is the future, and they impact, what our, not only our county, our region, but what the world will look like within the next few years. They're going to be those policymakers. You all are going to be those engineers, the transportation planners. I look forward to possibly even working with some of you in the near future. So for me, I feel like, it's great being able to expose people to what we do, who we are, and to help them get to that next phase of life. So with this last question that we are posing to you all, the audience, if you can get your phones back out or you switch over to your browser, the last question is, to which capacity would you like to interact with the Broward NPO in the future? Like Stephanie mentioned, we do have volunteer opportunities coming up. I dropped a link for you all in the chat. If you're interested in working with that Be Tactical project, you go ahead and fill it out. We're also in the process of building out what our internship possibilities can be in the near future, as well as employment. The Broward NPO, we are growing rapidly, and we have grown rapidly prior to the pandemic. And even now, we are still amazingly growing at unbelievable speeds. So we are always looking to, get those next set of transportation planners and engineers and movers and shakers within transportation here at the Broward NPO. Okay, we have quite a few people that are interested in, a little bit of everything, so that's exciting. I'll be sure to talk with Priyanka after this to get your emails and things so you can be informed on what we have coming up in the near future here at the Broward NPO. And so now we are going to open the floor for questions from the audience. If any of you have questions that you would like to pose to any of our panelists, you'd like us to expand on a little bit more, or whatever the case may be, this is your opportunity.
Thank you, guys. It was a really interactive session. We really enjoyed it. Now it's time for taking questions. You can write your questions in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself, raise hand, and I think they're ready to take your questions, guys. So shoot away.
There's no questions. That just means that we covered all of our bases. And again, I will reach out to your student advisors, your faculty advisor, to ensure that, whomever is interested in volunteering or, future employment opportunities, that you are in the loop with all things Broward NPO moving forward.
Alrighty, I'll start with the questions if everyone is deciding on what to ask. So my question is, we have a lot of international students here who are graduate students and looking to graduate soon, maybe at the end of this year or next year. So what are the opportunities for international students to, like, in terms of employment at Broward NPO? Do you guys have a specific requirement or stuff like that?
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and answer that question. At the moment, I do not believe we have a specific requirement. We do have some people on staff who are international. I know at one point, my manager actually was a Canadian resident, and she was here on a work visa. So the Broward NPO is flexible in that realm.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, this is Mamun. I'm actually the Vice President of the FIU IT student chapter. So thank you so much, guys, for your nice presentation. I have one general question. So what do you think the software skill plays a role in case of getting job? I mean, from after finishing the college to any duty or MPO job. So what is the role will play the software skill?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question again? There was like a echo.
Can you hear me well now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm asking that what is the role of the software skill for getting a job? I mean, after completing the college.
I believe the question you're asking is what is the qualifications to get a job after you graduate?
Software skill. I'm asking that what is the role of software skill, like different types of software we are using for simulation software or analytical software or GIS, like mapping software.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. You know, all of the different job applications that we put up at the MPO, they vary within the skills that are required within our different sections. But generally speaking, for planning, for engineering, it might be a little bit different. But for planning, you really want to have a good understanding of GIS software. So Esri, ArcMap, ArcMap Pro. A really good another software to have in your arsenal would be the Adobe Creative Cloud. I've had a lot of success with that, being able to maneuver different skills that I have within our agency. Also, really good ones, you really need to be proficient in Excel. A lot of times you think, oh, I understand that, but it's more than just changing borders. Doing great calculations to get really good outputs is really important because this is data that we end up going to the public and presenting to them. For engineering softwares, a really good one to have would be the highway capacity software or Synchro. These two softwares are for traffic analysis, and Benjamin can probably speak a little bit more to it, but it really gives us a good picture of proof of concept when we go develop new transportation initiatives within our county to kind of put us in the direction, hey, is this actually a good idea or is it not? And that's the first step we need to take before we go into further design and plans of it.
Yeah, and to add on a basic project management, so project suite. If you know project management tools, that would be also great because we are managing everything from an event to a project, an infrastructure project, and also AutoCAD. You know, when we need to read many of the plans that we receive from the municipalities and from DOT, so knowing AutoCAD is key if you want to work with the mobility team, at least. Yeah, but GIS, I think GIS, every suite, you know, for example, we are also using Survey 123. We also use story maps. That's something that Esri launched a few years ago that we are actually implementing in order to do public outreach. Now that, you know, with COVID, we need to be more innovative. So we started creating story maps and informing the municipalities and the community about our projects through these creative ways.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add, you know, AutoCAD is a really good software, but if you know Bentley MicroStation, you get by with that too.
Yeah, I think that's the one that DOT uses, right?
The one I use.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
All right. Are there any more questions?
I think Kyra is breaking up. So what I deciphered from what she's saying is like, is there any more questions, guys? Is it possible for you guys to like put the email addresses in the chat box so that our students can later ask you questions via email?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Sure.
Wow,
thank you very much. It has been very, very productive and interesting and engaging conversation. I've learned quite a bit just listening to all 5 of you speak. So thank you very much. And yeah. Any other questions, students?
I think everyone's a bit shy today to ask questions, or the presentation was really good that answered all their questions.
Yeah.
So I would request the students who, if you have any questions, you can just email them. I think they're very friendly, as you can see. They will answer your questions. And I would like to thank all 5 of you to be here today and spend some time. I was listening to your conversation before, and you say this is your off days. So thank you so much, guys, to like taking time from your off days and be here with us. And thank you for choosing FIU. And hopefully we can interact more in the future. And please reach out to us if you want to do this kind of sessions in the future as well. Thank you so much for your time, and we really enjoyed it. And have a nice weekend, all of you.
Thank you all again
Thank
so
you.
much for having us.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, guys. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.